Hello, everyone, and welcome to I actually wrote it down this time, the ninth episode of the New Adventures of K-Man and Spence. I almost said
It's
the official
improvement.
adventures of K-Man and Spence, which I guess is also true. This is the official adventures, but these are the new adventures for this show. So, again, welcome to the New Adventures of K-Man and Spence. I am Spencer Bennett, Spence in the title. That is K-Man, Kieran Collins to my left.
Ahoy.
Ahoy indeed. I guess we're both wearing sport hats today. That's interesting.
Go
You got your
Cubs.
Cubs World Series. I got my Seahawks beanie, even though they got destroyed yesterday. But the people listening to the show probably don't care about sports, and that's totally fine. But it was Halloween this last week, and then the week before that, we didn't do a show because college again. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I keep saying we won't skip a week, and then we do anyway because we're just getting
We
destroyed
just
by
want to
some
build
games.
up the hype and anticipation
Yeah,
for our
right.
many
That
listeners.
yeah, that's what's happening. But last week was Halloween, so I thought about doing like a Halloween special, but I didn't think we were like well equipped enough to talk about horror comics because that's something that both of us have not really ventured into, and which is shocking for me because I'm such a huge Halloween fan and I watch so many Halloween movies during fall. So I
It,
definitely next year, if we're still running, which I fingers crossed we will do a big Halloween extravaganza about horror comics.
yeah. I guess I'm curious. I don't think I've ever gotten scared reading a comic book. So I'm curious if there's anything we can find that's like actually terrifying. Because I feel like because you're reading at your own pace,
Hmm.
maybe not. But also with books, there's some creepy books out there for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I've read my fair share of Stephen King, and I've never really been terrified reading it. They're creepy for sure, and like some of the things will like stick with you, but it's far different from a movie where you get like jolted. When you're
Yeah,
reading it,
yeah.
the atmosphere just kind of freaks you out. I have heard that the Hill House stuff is good, which coincidentally enough
Mm.
is Stephen King's son, and that's like his line in DC. But I have not read any to confirm it myself, so that'd probably be where I jump first. It seems to be like the easiest entry point, especially like I say because I've read his dad's work, so I'm sure there's some correlation between them in terms of style, but who knows? But again, we hope you had a safe and happy Halloween, and you're excited for it to get a little colder. That's why I'm wearing this beanie to celebrate it getting colder. But we'll jump into what we were reading this week. That's not issues, just our normal random volumes of stuff. So, Kieran, you of course read some manga as you always do. Tell us about what you read this week.
Okay, so we went to Barnes and Noble and we did another haul. Gotta love that Barnes and Noble deal.
We are there so much.
Yeah, 10% off everything. So get $1 off for every comic book I buy. I think maybe $2. It might be because manga is like $10, so it might be $8 I'm paying
It's
or
pretty
something.
cheap, and
It's
even
great.
like the other stuff I got that's like colored but still in the manga style, I got the discount, which was nice.
Yeah, oh really? Okay, that's cool.
Hmm.
But yeah, so it was. I mean, it was like I got Summer Wars, which is this movie that I saw while I was in Japan. And it's the makers. I forget what movie they made after that, but they're not Ghibli, but they're like Ghibli levels of quality
Hmm.
essentially. And so the manga I'm reading it comes after the movie. It's like based on the movie and not the other way around. But I looked it up and it had good reviews, and it is very good. It's definitely like a movie tie-in. It has those properties to it, but I love the movie. So I'm really enjoying it. I love the concept art. Honestly, I'm kind of half looking at it for inspiration for tattoos, really, because it's like at that point when you buy a manga adaptation or an anime adaptation into manga, it's kind of like a concept art book at that point almost.
Sure.
So there's cool shit in there, and it's King Cosma is one of the main characters in it, and he is a badass. And I just want to shout out King Cosma. Look him up. Watch Summer Wars. I mean, I'd say watch it and then read it. But yeah,
I mean, that's a
fantastic.
pretty awesome name, King Cosma.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
He's like the ultimate. The whole premise of this thing is the world. It's kind of like Ready Player One, except I think it came before Ready Player One because I think this is 2009. And it's like everything in the same way everything is online. It's less like pop culture-y and more just like people doing their own thing and stuff. It doesn't have as much of the brand IP tie-in and stuff. It's bit less capitalist. There you go, Ready Player One, exactly. Um, but it's interesting because so King Cosma is like in the fighting arenas, he's the number one contender. He's like the champion, and he's this anthropomorphic rabbit who wears a red vest and has a pair of goggles on, and it's got like white rabbit ears shooting up. and eventually you find out what his real identity is in real life, and it's a cool enough reveal. It's pretty predictable, but it's a cool enough reveal. But yeah,
I'm all
so
for anthropomorphic animals.
yeah, so Summer Wars is really fun. I really really like that. I really like the movie. I like the manga less, I guess, which is not surprising just because I love the movie so much. So I enjoy
Yeah.
the manga more as a supplement to it rather than its own thing. And then I started reading My Hero Academia also, which is a very popular anime and manga.
Yeah, I mean, they've had movies playing in theaters. When I used to work at AMC, there was My
Yeah,
Hero movies.
they did, and they've done when I was in Japan, they had a live action My Hero Academia movie in
Really?
theaters. Yeah, it looked really trippy and weird. We almost went to see it, but yeah, so it's huge. Like it's that and Demon Slayer are the two biggest current IPs in manga right now.
Hmm.
I obviously love Demon Slayer. I am halfway through the first volume of My Hero, not feeling it as much as I was with Demon Slayer. Um, it's very much inspired by American comic books. I can tell
Hmm.
that because it is kind of like it's like the premise of like everybody is a superhero. I think it's 80% of the population have superpowers, and then there's the other 20%, and the main character really wants to be a superhero, but he's in that 20%. Right?
Right.
That's basically the premise of it. And it's cool. I like that idea. I like the characters. I like all the usual stuff in manga. But I guess the thing that kind of throws me off is just how it's trying really hard to be like American comic books. But if I'm reading manga, I kind of want to read manga. I don't really want to read American comic books, you
Sure.
know. So I still very much prefer Demon Slayer. I'm sorry if any of our manga readers out there adamantly disagree with me, but feel free to let me know on Twitter and prove me wrong by all means.
Yeah. Um, I mean, I know My Hero is just like huge. So all of my like anime friends that I used to work with and whatnot, like they all were big My Hero fans. So that is an interesting take for sure.
I think, and maybe I what I wanted to do with this once I finish the first volume, I'm gonna watch the episodes,
Hmm.
because that was kind of the experiment I was doing here for Demon Slayer. I saw the anime before. For everything else I've read in manga, I've seen the anime adaptation before. I've read the manga, so this is the one time when I've read the manga first. So we'll see how that goes. We'll see how that translates.
Yeah.
But yeah, on the manga front, oh wait, one more thing. Sorry, one more thing. Just to promote something. Because I want to. I like this is something that I adamantly want people to buy so that they make more of them. When I was in Japan, and I was at a really nice barber shop, with a whole kind of like prohibition jazz theme to it. It was a really memorable barber shop. Um, on the magazine rack, I found this manga that was called Blue Giant, and I opened it up and was looking through it, and it was obviously all in Japanese, so I couldn't read it. But it was about this kid who wants to become the ultimate saxophone player, right?
That's cool.
He just in his life he just wants to be the ultimate saxophone musician. So I looked it up as soon as I got back to my dorm, and I saw that it was not translated in English anywhere, and it likely wouldn't be. And so I was like, shit. And so then about 2 months ago, I check on Amazon. I didn't really check; it just like popped up on my screen somehow. I came across it, and they announced that they're doing a dub of it, and it comes out tomorrow.
Huh.
Um, and it's the first. It's the first. I think it's an omnibus. I think they're releasing it in omnibuses in the U.S. instead of like the individual books. So I'm going to be picking up jazz manga tomorrow, which I'm
There you
very
go.
very excited about because I have not been able to find any good jazz manga. I got to read Kids in the Block, but none of it's translated. That's the problem. There's so much IP in manga that should be ported over, but they just haven't. I've noticed that more and more the more I've gotten into manga. But anyway, that was Kieran's manga corner of the week.
There you go. I guess that's what we'll call this, Kieran's manga corner.
Yeah, let's do it.
Did you have anything else you were reading this week that you wanted to talk about?
Um, that's a good question. Oh yeah, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. That's the other thing. Which I won't say too much about that because I want to make sure that you want to read that, and I think you absolutely should read it because it's
I
really
do.
cool. I'm falling more and more in love with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles recently. I pre-ordered The Last Ronin. I watched the second movie, Secret of the Ooze, on Halloween. I really like this first comic thing. It's just so cool because the first issue was truly independent, and the
Hmm.
fact that it's become such a big property off of a venture that really just started with two guys like in a basement essentially, and nobody was looking over their shoulders. They say in their the book I have has little notes in the margins and stuff, and it says it says about like how when they were writing their thing, they're like, okay, we wanted to take the Frank Miller opening and then put some Jack Kirby splash pages in there and like that kind of thing, right? And it comes across really great. It comes across really derivative. It's sort of a parody. Their origin story is literally derivative of Daredevil's origin story, but
Right.
at the same time, just on the art level, it's really really cool.
It's the
Um,
Ninja Turtles.
yeah, exactly. It's the OG, and the original art style is cool, especially because it's in black and white, so you can't actually tell the difference between the Ninja Turtles unless they specifically say so, or based on their
Hmm.
weapons or whatever they're carrying, because you can't tell the color of the masks. But it's good. It's really really good. I'm excited for you to read it, and we'll talk about it some more.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm
and
excited
that was
to
Kieran's
check it
Ninja
out.
Turtle corner for the week.
There was the Ninja Turtles. Well, this week, not technically this week, the last 2 weeks that we had off, I saw an ad for the Batman White Knight presents Harley Quinn in a issue. I don't remember which one it was, and I was like, that looks fun, and I like Harley Quinn. So me on an impulse bought both the original White Knight graphic novel and the sequel, Curse of the White Knight, and they're really really cool. Probably the most ambitious comic like story I've read in a while. It kind of reminded me of Frank Miller's Dark Knight Returns in terms of how it kind of goes into politics, but and it kind of goes into like ideology and philosophy and all that kind of crap. But the first in the Dark Knight Returns, it kind of satirizes it and it kind of makes fun of it. Like the news anchors, like that it always cuts to after Batman does something are kind of like, and the Batman strikes again. Like it's kind of like a joke
Mhm.
versus like in the White Knight, like it's a really like great political thriller. If you aren't familiar with Sean Murphy's like they call it the Murphyverse now, but originally it was just the first Black Label thing, and it was called Batman White Knight. And the theory and like the idea is that the Joker becomes sane. Like they find like a miracle medicine that turns him sane, and then he
Interesting.
runs for office and like basically tries to prove to Gotham that Batman's the problem and not the supervillains. And he's right, like especially the Batman in this universe. I won't go into why or spoil anything for you, but like it's great. The first White Knight, I was like blown away. It is pretty dense for a comic book just because it really reaches for a lot of like interesting ideas. So it's not like my favorite comic because it's just not very comic-y. It's just super ambitious. It's kind of like reading a book with pictures and more less of than like a comic normally is. Um, but that was great, and it ends really cool, and I love that world. It's also you can tell that this guy really loves Tim Burton's Batman, which I really love Tim Burton's Batman because there's tons of references to it. I mean, Joker's name in the book is Jack Napier, which is his name in
Oh,
Tim
cool.
Burton's movie. So I kind of just think of like this guy just basically is trying to continue that universe. It's definitely different for sure and takes from different things, but it's really fun. And then the sequel is cool, and they bring in Azrael, which I know you're not familiar with like at all.
No, I played the Batman games. Both of
Okay,
those. Yeah, it was
okay.
playable.
Gotcha. I just remember when I bought it, you didn't recognize what he looked like, but that's neither here nor there. Okay, that's
I
cool
only
that you
I only
know.
know his Arkham design, I
That's
guess.
cool that you know who he is. Then okay, I won't have to explain that. But it's cool. It stays political. In the beginning, I thought it was like, oh, they're kind of abandoning politics and gonna go full action hero, and then they do something with Azrael and like the story and the history of like the Waynes and moving to Gotham, and I was like, oh no, this is still really cool, and this writer is still really cool. And that ends really interestingly. And then if I read the first issue of Harley Quinn White Knight, which is like the third installment in this universe, and I thought it was great. They bring back the villain of Batman White Knight. It's not the Joker, and I won't talk about it because you got to read White Knight, Kieran.
Yeah, yeah.
And I wouldn't want to spoil it for anyone who hasn't read them because I think they're really great and worth reading, especially if you're like into really like it kind of feels more cinematic than anything I've read in terms of like the story and what they go for. But they bring back the original villain of White Knight, and at least they imply that it's them. And Harley Quinn's kind of taking the lead on it because Batman and Joker are unable to help, and I won't explain why, but they are. And Harley Quinn's kind of the protagonist, and that's really cool. And Harley Quinn in this universe is like rehabilitated and is fully just like normal.
Oh, that's cool.
It's cool that they kind of like paint it in a way like these aren't just like these big, larger than life caricature supervillains, like they are people.
Yeah.
And they show really cool with the Joker, like a really big, cool duality between him
I'm
and Jack, and he's
fascinated to see
constantly
what
like
sane
fighting
Joker is like.
with what?
I'm fascinated to see what sane Joker will be like.
Kind of like Harvey Dent, in a
Um,
way. It's really great. It's really really great. You definitely need to read it. But I read that, so check out weekly reviews now of the Harley Quinn White Knight series. Even though I just gave my quick thoughts on the first issue, not a whole lot happens. Harley has kids, which is really sweet. There's a great line with the hyenas where she's like, "My babies," and they're like, "Your kid?" She's like, "Those are my kids. These are my babies." And she's talking about the hyenas, and I was like, "That's so Harley Quinn. It's ridiculous."
Yeah.
It's really really fun. I high recommend if you haven't read that series to get into it, and I also really recommend the first issue of Harley Quinn White Knight. But another
Wait,
thing I read.
quick question
Oh
on that,
yes,
right?
go ahead.
For listeners at home, because I'm curious, if you didn't want to read all of the White Knight backlog and you just wanted to read Harley Quinn and White Knight, for example, if you want to just catch up, do you think you have to know what happened in previous issues? Do you think it's a part one, part two, part three situation, or do you think it works standalone too?
I would say you need to read White Knight for sure, just to understand the universe and kind of how everything works. Because Bruce Wayne's kind of a different character in this, and a lot of them are a lot different than other renditions you've seen.
Hmm.
Curse of the White Knight so far isn't playing too much into Harley Quinn, except for just what happens to Joker in that. But that can be you can just they have a panel where they kind of show what happens to Joker in that. So I would say just out of like recommendation, I would say like definitely pick up White Knight. It's like $15 paperback on Amazon because it's been out forever.
Hmm.
So
Okay.
that's what I did. It came in 2 days, and I blew through it in a day because I just forget. I sit down and I curl up and I read things like just I get through the whole thing. I just don't like pausing the story, which is why I famously don't like television. For those who've never heard me talk about TV, I just can't do. I don't like long, drawn out stories. I like to just get it all in one punch. But yeah,
Agreed.
the White Knight series is cool. Sean Murphy, cool dude, very into it, and you'll hear my ongoing thoughts of Harley Quinn White Knight. But back to the manga corner. Funny enough, this is
Ooh,
I'm a big fan of Tim Burton's Nightmare Before Christmas, and we're kind of in that transitional period between Halloween and Christmas. And so I've been reading this manga here, which I'm showing on the camera if you're listening,
that
which
art is so cool,
it
dude.
is really cool. It is by the American company Tokyo Pop, which makes kind of like American IP manga, which is really cool. And I'm interested to work for them if they're listening. I would love
Huh.
to be something in your company. I thought it's a really cool idea. But it's called Zero's Journey, and it's actually the only Tim Burton approved spinoff slash sequel to The Nightmare Before Christmas. And it's about Jack creates this device. He's trying to create this device because he's Jack. He's a sciencey guy that can transport into the different Halloween towns. And he
Hmm.
throws a bone for Zero, and Zero accidentally flies through the portal, and Jack doesn't know where he is. And Zero ends up in Christmas Town. And it's about Zero just being lost in Christmas Town. And what's really great, this is book 4. I picked up the first 2 books from our local comic store, and I read them in like 2 days. I like reading them at night when it's like very
Hmm.
Christmassy. I light my candle, and it's very pleasant in my room.
That
And
sounds nice.
I finished the first 2 books in like 2 days, and then I looked at Barnes and Noble because I knew the comics store only had the first 2 volumes, which is fine. Shout out to Pop Comics, but I looked at Barnes and Noble, and luckily enough, the orange Barnes and Noble store only had 3 and 4.
Oh,
Worked out
whoa.
perfectly, yeah. And I went there for
Perfect.
like 30 minutes searching for it because love Barnes and Noble, but a lot of times shit's out of order.
Mhm.
Just because people pick and look at things and put them back, and that's fine. It happens. Every store's like that. So I spent a while looking for it, but I found 3 and 4, and I finished 3 last night and about to start book 4. But it's great, especially if you like The Nightmare Before Christmas and you like Tim Burton's art. They kind of make it a little more anime, which is awesome. I don't want to actually flip this because I haven't read this one yet. But there's a really cool panel where it's like lock, shock, and barrel, and they're really excited, and they get the big anime eyes, and it's really
Oh,
just like
cool.
cool art. Let me see if I
I
can flip.
love Beryl.
Yeah, I was gonna say you would love how exciting this is. Look at here. He
Like, how
says like
to-
Santa says, "Is this why you guys like toys so much?" And then they get the big red anime eyes.
That's so great.
Yeah, it's a really really sick series. There he is. There's Kieran's little barrel keychain. Um, but I really recommend it, especially if you're into Christmas and Halloween stuff, specifically Tim Burton. But yeah, it's really a lot of fun, and it's cool just to see like a Western manga, and it's colored. And I know they're selling like the full like omnibus as like a paperback
Uh-huh.
black and white manga, which I might pick up just for the heck of it. But I've really enjoyed reading these colored editions.
So you said, wait, so it's American or it's Japanese, like the people, the creative team?
The artist is Japanese, but it's written by a guy named DJ Milky, who I'm just gonna
Oh,
go
okay.
ahead and assume is American. And
DJ
it,
Milky.
Tokyo Pop is like located here,
Okay.
and it's an American IP. But
And
I
is
think
it
it's
is
just a
it
really cool concept because
is
they
it
do.
right to left or left to right?
It's fully like backwards. It's
Oh,
anime.
cool. Okay.
It's manga.
Very
I
cool.
mean,
Very, very cool.
It's really awesome. It's really, really cool. I really recommend it. But anyways, what's really cool about it is Zero doesn't talk. So a majority of these pages are fully just visual storytelling, and that's awesome. It's
Hmm.
like you're just looking at images, and I kind of enjoy it's like a puzzle, like piecing together the story. You're like, oh, now he's going here and this. And they have like little sound effects where it'll be like arf or like crack or step, jump. Like it's kind of fun reading
Yeah,
it. And what's really cool is it's ambitious is that they do like musical scenes because the first movie is fully a musical. So like you can tell when it goes into a sing song because like a character will say something and then all of a sudden the font will like become italicized and everything will start rhyming and you can kind of like piece together the melody. I'm a musician, so like it's fun piecing together the melody, like while reading the lines and seeing the characters dancing, and it's like this
you
feels
should you
like a
should
sequel to Night. Feels like a TV special, like spin-off of Nightmare Before
you
Christmas.
should write your own rendition. You should write your own music to it.
That would be sweet. But yeah, Tokyo Pop, if you're listening, I would love to work for you guys. And they work with Disney all the time. They have a Jack Sparrow ongoing series currently that I'm thinking about reading about like teenage
Um,
Jack Sparrow. Like it's really
that
cool.
company, please hire Spencer Bennett and whatever band he has in the future, including Citrus Club or anything that comes afterwards, to
Yes.
record the original soundtrack for Zero's Journey.
There we
The
go. But
company
yeah,
of manga.
big fan of Zero's Journey. You'll probably get my full series review when I finish book 4 probably tonight if we're being completely honest.
Oh,
But yeah, Zero's Journey is really cool if you like Tim Burton's Nightmare Before Christmas. Sorry that my audio keeps shifting up. My mic stand will not stay in place.
all good.
Yeah. All right. We will jump into the movie and TV news today. Not a whole lot. Kind of a lot of conjecture and he said, she said. But the first news that happened a couple weeks ago was that it was confirmed that Joe Manganiello, who played Deathstroke for 2 seconds in a post-credit scene of Justice League and was supposed to be in Ben Affleck's solo Batman film, is returning for reshoots on Zack Snyder's Justice League. So I don't really have too much thoughts on that. We saw him for 5 seconds. I liked that he had the blonde hair and was very comic book accurate looking. I
Hmm.
think Joe Manganiello is like physically imposing enough to really like toe to toe with Ben Affleck, which is cool. I think that was something that was always kind of funny when they were casting villains for his Batman was that Ben Affleck's Batman is just so big.
Hmm.
Like even Jared Leto's Joker is kind of buff because just Batfleck would literally just like kill people. Like he's just huge. Like if he punched you, like you would get serious damage because he's just a big dude. So
Oh, he's huge. Yeah.
yeah, so I always thought that was at least physically well cast for Deathstroke. I don't know. What are your thoughts? I'm excited to see what they bring back with him. It seems like everyone from the Snyderverse is kind of coming back for one last hurrah.
Yeah, no,
Um,
I think it's cool because I'm gonna argue it's not even a one last hurrah because if you
I
consider
hope not. I
yeah,
sincerely hope not.
if you consider what the post credit scene was in Justice League and like the roster we have now in our DC universe, you could compile a team, the Injustice League or the Masters of Evil is Marvel. I forget what the other name is.
The Legion of Doom.
Legion of Doom, that's the one. You could do that with Jesse Eisenberg Lex.
Well, that was
Um,
the post-credit scene.
yeah, exactly. And Jared Leto Joker because he's in this movie now too.
Hmm.
Deathstroke, Black Manta, um, possibly I forget what the dude's name is, but the Dr. Saban was his name, I think, or I think.
Dr. Sivana.
Yeah, that's the guy from Shazam, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, but now we have Mr. What do you remember that one? I can't remember that. The Caterpillar guy.
Mr. Mind.
Is it Mr. Mind? That's right. You get Mr. Mind on the Injustice League or the
Well, you
Master.
know, I would be all in throwing Cheetah in there, depending on what
Oh
happens at the end of Wonder Woman
yeah, you're right.
1984. I mean,
You're
Cheetah's a
absolutely
pretty
right.
famous member of the.
Yeah, because I forgot because it hasn't even come out yet. But yeah, no, you're right. There's opportunity there. And we actually have that. Unlike last time Justice League came out, we didn't really have that as much of a rogues gallery assembled, but now we
Mhm.
do. So that could be the capacity. I also do like though. We were talking about this just before the show. Kind of adding on to what we were saying about Jared Leto last week, or however many weeks ago we last recorded. Did we record? Yeah, we recorded last week. Um, if they do a flashback and they show more of Robin and
Mhm.
the Joker killing Robin or whatever that situation was, maybe there's also that prevalent theory that's been going ever since Batman vs Superman that Joker is Robin. You know that one?
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. It could be. I mean, it could be any of that stuff, but that's cool. I like that too. But I would also like them all to join the Legion of Doom, or maybe both. That'd be cool too. But Deathstroke, it's kind of a bummer that I do, as much as the Batman looks incredible and all that kind of stuff, it is a bummer that Ben Affleck movie with Deathstroke as the villain never happened, because that would have been
Yeah.
sick as hell.
I mean, there's tons of internet rumor that Ben Affleck's going to do an HBO Max series, whatever. I would watch that if that happens. There's really no proof that that is in the cards, but a lot of big DC YouTubers and subreddits swear that this is happening. So I'll believe it when I see it, and I want it to happen. That would be awesome. I would watch that religiously. I love Ben Affleck as Batman. So we'll see. Maybe we will eventually get that story. But our second news story was not really even a news story. Tom Holland posted a photo, basically commencing that Spider-Man 3 production has started, and he was wearing a mask, which begged the question: is COVID-19 gonna be like part of this world? Was it kind of just a promotional stunt? I think it was probably just like a motivational thing. Spider-Man can wear a mask, you can too. It's kind of like how in all the
Yeah,
DC issues they have a big splash page in the middle that's like either social distance or heroes wear a mask. I think it's probably something like that. Also, like he might have been between takes and actually had to wear a mask per like the regulations for sets to be going on in America. I'm not entirely sure, but I don't think that they would make a movie that COVID-19 would be a part of that universe. I think that'd be really lame. Like I know Michael Bay just released a trailer for a pandemic movie, and I'm like, I don't.
yeah,
No
no,
one. Life is so not. It is bleak to an extent with COVID-19. Like no one wants to go and have their escapism be entirely centralized around the same thing that's plaguing our normal life. That's the point of movies, is to escape from regular
no.
life for a while. So I hope that's not the case, and I don't think it is. I think it was just a promotional thing. But
Even
what do you
even
think, Kieran?
I mean, even adding on to that, in the Marvel universe, like as it currently stands, that would really be putting them through the ringer. They just had the Infinity War debacle, where 50% of the of the entire world population is eliminated.
I totally didn't
Right?
think about that.
They come back, and then we have the COVID-19 pandemic. That would suck. We don't want to do that.
Iron Man died for nothing.
Yeah, imagine if it just like started back up and again. It was like, oh, see, we thought the old man Cap was gonna survive, but he was in the danger zone.
Yeah,
So,
terrible.
or he's president now. Really, that's the more realistic thing.
That would be yeah, that's true. Joe Biden does look like old man
He
Captain
looks
America.
exactly like old man
Yeah.
Cap.
But
Um,
anyways,
yeah. So let's not do that to them. They've
yeah.
suffered enough. Also, along that line, though, right? If you actually now that not that this is any sort of accomplishment or badge of honor of any sort, right? But now that we have experienced a global pandemic, could you imagine how catastrophic the snap in Infinity War would be? That was
Oh,
5 years of 50% of the world just instantly gone.
I mean, it wouldn't be great.
Crazy, because like
Yeah.
I mean, COVID is awful, and COVID is like 1 or 2% of the population, right? This is 50% of the population.
What do
That
they
would
call
be
it in
nuts.
Homecoming or in Far From Home? The blip or like
The
the
blip,
bloop
that's
or
right.
something. Yeah.
Yeah, kind of a stupid name, but
They made it kind of funny. It was supposed to sound stupid, I think.
mhm.
But anyways, yes, COVID-19 hitting the Marvel universe would be not good. It wouldn't be a fun story to tell, and also, as you just pointed out so elegantly, that would big suck if you lived in that world.
Yeah,
Um, okay, let's jump into our third story, which again is conjecture, but seems to have some backing based on what we know about the Flash movie going on right now. Brandon Routh is kind of substantially teasing that he's going to play Superman in it. As I've said since the beginning of the Flash news, Flash casting news, you have two legacy Hollywood characters in Batman and Superman, mainly Batman, but Superman too has had his fair share of movies. Um, why not? I know there was a crazy rumor that Nick Cage might be in the Flash, and that would be an awesome fan reference. I don't know if they would do that because how many people would actually get it? Like the hardcore nerds would be like, "Oh," but like normal people would be like, "Why the hell is Benjamin Gates from National Treasure
I
in the
think
Superman suit?"
I think that we should have Nick Cage Superman and
Mhm.
also Brendan Fraser Superman.
All the potential castings.
That would be great.
Who was
I
someone was supposed to play him in the George Miller Justice League movie. I don't remember who.
I remember.
Um,
I know Adam Brody was supposed to be the
he's supposed
Flash.
to be the Flash, which would have been a
Yeah,
really cool
which
cast.
that would be sick. And in the
Yeah,
Flash movie, we'd Adam Brody as the Flash. He is in the DCU already, so they
and
could
he's
they could
Captain Marvel
they
Jr.
could absolutely fly that. I don't think Adam's that busy these days.
No, I
So
mean that would be insane. He's a little too old for it now, but that would be crazy good casting at the time. That movie would have been really cool. Army Hammer was Batman too.
Ah, fuck. That was one of my like when I heard, I didn't know about it at the time at all, but when
Hmm.
I heard about that years later, that's absolutely on my list of the stuff that should have been made.
That would have been sick.
Um, I'm so sad that was never made, and it's too
Yeah,
late now. It's absolutely too late, but that would have been so cool.
would have been really cool.
You said Army Hammer is Batman though?
He was going to be Batman in George Miller's Justice League
You
Mortal.
think they would
Yeah,
have dyed his hair? You think they would have had blonde Batman?
probably blonde.
They had blonde James Bond around that time, and that was a big deal.
Mm,
So, like Daniel Craig was the first blonde Bond.
yeah.
So they do it. I could see them doing that.
I mean, Army Hammer looks like a superhero. The fact that none of the big studios have utilized him yet is crazy. But he's kind of such rumored for everything. So
Mhm.
I still think he'd be a good
Um,
Green Lantern. But
one thing I find kind of funny about that, right? Just popped in my head. Isn't it so strange how like DC and Marvel always need to be competing and doing the same thing? Because they're now both doing multiverse. Whereas
hmm.
before it was like nobody was doing multiverse. Before it was everybody's just doing connected universe, no multiverse stuff, right? But now they're both doing multiverse. And like we're getting at the same time news of like all the Spider-Man joining the Doctor Strange movie or the Spider-Man movie, don't even know which one. And now like all of them are also joining the Flash movie. So you're just gonna have at the same time coming out like into the Flashverse and into the Strangeverse or whatever, right? That's
Hmm.
not their actual titles. I know their actual titles, but I'm choosing not to say their actual titles for comedic effect. But yeah, it's just funny. They can't get out of each other's asses. They just can't.
No, and I mean that is pretty much a direct reflection of that the comics are usually doing similar things at similar times because a lot of creator crossover and just they don't really in terms of like comic books like I don't really think the rivalry is that big. It's definitely like more of a movie thing.
Mhm.
But like the comics have all ebbed and flowed and done the same thing over and over again. So it's interesting that they all are kind of lining up with movies too. But yeah, Brendan Routh, if he comes back to play Superman, that'd be cool. He's not my
I'm
favorite
down.
Superman. He definitely is good in Superman Returns. I just think it's kind of it's like Miles or what's his name? It's like Donald Glover playing Lando in Solo, where it's kind of like yeah, he's doing a Billy D impression, and
Yeah.
Brandon Routh was doing a Christopher Reeve impression. He was good, but it wasn't Henry Cavill. I think is an entirely new portrayal of that character, which I like better. But
Hmm.
if Brandon Routh was in a couple scenes, cool. If he
The
was
other thing
Kingdom
I'd say
Come
about
Soon
that,
for Crisis, that'd be cool too.
yeah, the other thing I'd say, he was already in the CW Crisis event.
Exactly.
It's a little bit to me like I mean, there's considering the options we just gave there, right? Of all those other cameos you could have, he
Hmm.
wouldn't be top of my list. Like it's cool. I'm obviously not against it. I do like Brandon Ruth a lot, but there's a lot of options that they could go with. That wouldn't exactly be top of my list. But maybe it's gonna be an end game situation and it's just gonna be a clusterfuck of everybody being there.
That
In
would
which
be
case,
so funny if
super down.
all the
Maybe
Supermen, all the Batman team up to fight Reverse Flash at the end of this movie.
that would
That
be
would be
really cool.
sick.
That would be really, really cool.
Yeah. All
And that would
right.
be
Well, what were you saying?
I'm saying in continuity, I think that would make sense. I think that lines up with the Flash's powers.
Yeah, they could do it.
Yeah.
Just
At
literally
one point,
explain everything Speed
at one,
Force.
yeah, at one point in the show, which like the show started off as a CW show, so no one ever thought it was going to get too comic booky. In one of the seasons, he literally takes down the villain by creating a reverb version of himself. Yeah, and in the next season, I'm spoilers for the Flash. I'm sorry. I also know Spencer's never gonna watch it. I wouldn't really recommend it to you anyway. It's great, but I wouldn't recommend it to you. But in the following season, after he makes that reverb Flash, you don't know who the villain is the whole season. Then at the end of the season, they're like, the villain was the reverb Flash you created, and he lived, and he became the villain. And I was like, you know what? It's stupid, but it's so comic booky that I like.
I can buy in. I can buy in.
Yeah, so they can totally pull that off in the
Yeah.
Flashverse, 100%.
Well, our final news topic of the day is that the Peacemaker series starring John Cena and from James Gunn. I don't know if James Gunn is the showrunner or what, but he did bring the character into the Suicide Squad. He's for sure producing it because he
Yeah,
announced it. Is starting production earlier than scheduled, which we think is a testament to the quality of the Suicide Squad. But interesting news there is that Steve Agee, who specifically touted by James Gunn at DC Fandom as the on-set King Shark, is also going to be in Peacemaker. So either this is a sequel to the Suicide Squad, and we're confirmed that Peacemaker and King Shark do not die, or they knew each other before the Suicide Squad happened, which is also possible. But yeah, I think that's exciting. Like I said, I think we both agree that this is a testament to the Suicide Squad probably being very good, and everything that everyone's heard is that it's fantastic, and it's James Gunn, so that's not shocking. I love King Shark. I think King Shark is hilarious. He's such a silly character, and I really love what they do with him with the Harley Quinn animated series too. So I'd love to see like a really silly King Shark, and the rumor is that Taika's voicing him, which obviously Taika's great at voicing these big CG characters. You're just gonna get Korg, but he's a shark.
Just think about it though, right? A TV series with John Cena and Taika Waititi.
Yeah, I mean it would be
Great,
tons of fun. Yeah, it'd be the
fantastic.
silliest thing ever.
Yeah.
So that is exciting, and I hope that that comes out and is great, and is that is a reflection of the Suicide Squad being great. Do you have any other thoughts on this news?
I mean, well, I guess I'm talking about the Flash TV show a lot today. But he was also on the Flash.
King Shark?
Yeah, he was.
I didn't know
That was before Harley Quinn. I mean, it was a big. That was my first time even hearing of the character, and that was a really like weird thing. Like in the first season, he was just an Easter egg that they teased, and then in the second season, they actually put him in there, and it was a really big deal. And I think he comes back like once a season because I think his episodes are really popular.
He is a
But
Flash villain.
yeah, no, he's a more serious character in that, and he's like big old like CGI, like kind of obviously a lot shittier than he will look in the movie. But still kind of
CW.
a what?
I said CW.
Yeah, no, exactly, yeah. But at the same time, it's cool. He looks very cool live action. He works very well, and I mean, the only thing I have to add is what I already said, basically, which is John Cena and Taika Waititi in the series together. I'm all for it. I'd say I'd be even more for it if it's a prequel series and it's like at the beginning of the Suicide Squad, Peacemaker and King Shark are just like a team up group or something, and they just like they're both asshole Captain Americas together. That would be great.
That
That'd
would
be
be
cool.
cool.
Also, I'm down for whatever James Gunn decides to do. So
Put your faith in James
trust in the
Gunn
gun.
is not a bad plan.
Trust in the gun. Son of a gun.
All right, we are going to take our quick break. When we come back, we'll talk about the issues we read this week. Welcome back, everyone, to the 9th episode of the New Adventures of K-Man and Spence. We are at the part of the show where we will talk about the issues we read this week. Starting off with the conversation was the conclusion of Batman the Joker War. There are about 2 issues past now, but we never officially gave our thoughts on the climactic ending climax because Kieran doesn't. He takes forever to read comics, unfortunately. So
I'm slow.
he got to Batman 100. So Kieran, give me your take on the conclusion of the Joker War.
I really liked it. I really, really liked it. I think, I mean, even more exciting than the story itself, I really like Punchline as a character. I really like Clown Hunter as a character.
That one shot comes out this week, so we should be able to read it on
Yeah.
Wednesday.
Yeah. Do we have that reserved? We'll
Yeah,
figure it out
I do.
afterwards.
I do.
But no, I mean, that's the biggest thing to come out of it for me on the story of like the way Tinian writes Joker, the way Tinian writes Batman. Again, it's very reminiscent of Talon.
Sure.
Which it makes sense because it's James Tinian and that's his style, and that was one of his first titles for DC. It's cool. I don't feel like I fully because we kind of jumped onto it a little bit later in the process.
We had the first issue of it.
Yeah, no, yeah, but that was like the first time they revealed the Joker was this guy who was like
yes.
he was pretending to be someone else for a while.
The designer.
Yeah, the designer, which I think that's like the opening of it. So it's kind of like we missed the first act, but at the same time, from what we did see, it was cool. It was a really cool premise. Like Gotham got taken over again, which is a little bit generic, but
when is Gotham not taken over?
Yeah, exactly. And like it was, Tinian did a good job. That's basically my overall thought.
Yeah, their dark designs is what they're calling the collected of the first part of Tinian's arc, and it's actually I think collected like this week or last week, so we can pick it up at some point and catch up.
Oh, cool.
But yeah, I thought it was great. We're not going to talk about the Three Jokers finale because you haven't read it yet, but I think it stuck the landing way better than that did. I thought it was a nice conclusion. I really liked the Joker at the end where he's like, it was never about winning Gotham. Like I knew you would take Gotham back. It was about this. It was about proving that I could and that you're like a fraud. And then, it was it was nicely done, very Jokery. Tinian has a good grasp on those characters. But like you, my takeaway from this whole arc, whole seminal event has been Punchline. I love that character, and I love what they do with her at the ending, where she's kind of like, "I was a victim of the Joker," and this, and it's really funny. And I liked the scene where where Joker was in the bar, like talking about that. He's like, "Oh, she's good. Like she's good at like making herself
Was
seem
I thought that
innocent."
was Joker in the bar, wasn't it?
That's what I meant. I meant
Yeah. Okay.
Joker. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Where he's like, that was good, and then he killed or turned the other guy like into the Joker to try and like fake his death, and it was a good ending. I was hoping that Batman didn't kill the Joker because that has happened just so many times. Well, not Batman
Mhm.
or Joker dying or whatever, but yeah, I thought it was really good. I don't remember all of it clearly because I read it several weeks ago, but I thought it was really well done. I
If
love where they all go and clean up Gotham, where he's kind of like radioing to Barbara and he's
oh yeah.
radioing to Dick.
Uh-huh.
Dick gets the Nightwing suit back, which is really cool. He's no longer Rick, which was a terrible failure. Um,
Yeah.
it was
I want to
cool.
read. I honestly want to read the Dick Grayson comic book just out of sheer like morbid curiosity.
Hmm.
Um.
Yeah, but I
Yeah.
thought it was a great finish, and I love like the triple issue, the big ones that you get for
Mhm.
because they're like graphic novels, but
It
they're
was
so
such a
much
cool
cheaper.
cover too. It had that spreadable cover. It was great.
Hmm. Yeah, it's really quite good. It's in my box right here. So Batman
Before
100. Oh, go
before
ahead.
we transition, right? One thing I also want to add though to put my writer's cap on for a second. If it were up to me, one of the things that I thought it made me like it a lot better anyway afterwards, which is I don't think you've read it yet, but the Joker Warzone or
I
whatever
have
it's called.
not, but that is something I
Um,
was talking about. Was I in this world like at the where like they talk about it that
mhm.
Gotham is like a war zone and Joker's running everything and it's just chaos. So I wanted to see that. So when you told me that you picked that up, I was like, cool. I can't wait to
I
read
think
that.
and that did exist too, but it could have been cool just from a storytelling perspective if they did. There was that whole dramatic bit where Batman, like, there's the end of one of the issues where it's like, oh no, Batman's dead, right? And then he wakes up in a recovery room the next
So
issue.
cool with the cape and it
Um,
says I'm Batman.
yeah, that would have been a perfect excuse to just put an issue out there in between those two to build anticipation and just have it be an anthology issue. Like Warzone.
Hmm.
If you did Warzone and just put it as part of the regular Batman
Just
series,
Batman getting this like
um,
his wits back.
yeah, but like Batman's not even in war zones, right? Because
Hmm.
it's all about the side characters and stuff. So that would really, because that was one criticism, not really criticism, but that was one thing that you were saying about it, and about how you wanted to read Warzone was that it was a very personal story to Batman. You didn't really get a sense of what was going on in the greater area of Gotham. And it's
Yeah,
comic books, so you read the spin-off titles, that makes sense. But at the same time, I would have liked a little bit more of that in the main series, maybe, if
yeah,
I'm to be critical. But I
yeah.
did.
I would agree with that a lot. There's nothing wrong with a personal Batman story, but I think with such a grand scope story like arc like Joker War, it kind of would have been more engaging if you got to see the effects of the whole world. That's cool that they did a spin-off title. Like you said, that's kind of how comics work.
Mhm.
Because they were having tie-in issues with Nightwing and Batgirl and stuff. So we just read the main through line of it. But I'm sure when you pick up the collected Joker War, it'll probably have the Nightwing and Batgirl issues in it, which is incentive for us to pick it up, you bastards at DC. Shut up and take my money, as that one old meme has. But yeah, I thought it was a good finale. Like we've talked about, Tinian's not reinventing the wheel, but he's a lot of fun. I think of his Batman kind of how I think of Bendis' Superman, where I'm like, they're fun little adventures. There's some interesting ideas here. It's not like White Knight, which we talked about earlier on the show, which is like ambitious as all hell with its story.
Mhm.
It's good,
It's
solid comic book fun.
it's the ongoing,
Yeah,
And
exactly.
what I always think about ongoings is that like you have your lulls and you have your fantastic stories and
Yeah,
stuff. I do
I thought this was
genuinely,
solid and very good.
yeah. In my heart of hearts, I do think Tinian is a fantastic writer.
Hmm.
I'm very biased because he kind of brought me back into comics,
Yeah,
but I think even I don't know what he's produced so far. I think he's pretty new into his Batman run, although he's been writing Batman with Snyder for a very long time.
well,
Um,
the first part of his arc was Dark Design, so this is only like his second, really.
okay,
Like,
cool.
I think he's only
Well,
had it for like 20
he's
issues, maybe.
yeah, he's gonna do something great.
Yeah,
He was Scott Snyder's protege. He was born and bred for this.
yeah. Well,
It's
you
the
haven't
ongoing, but
read,
great. He's doing
yeah,
good.
you haven't read 101 or 102, but Ghostmaker is like a new villain they're introducing. That's pretty cool.
And the design for Ghostmaker looks sick.
Yeah.
And I liked the way they previewed in issue 100.
Hmm.
Waiting for the Ghostmaker to show up. And then also, I for listeners at home, I managed to set up our pull list online, which is a huge upgrade for us. But through doing that, I saw like the upcoming Batman issues that we have pre-ordered. And if you've already read 101, this definitely isn't a spoiler.
I've read 102,
Um,
I think, as well.
102 is not out yet, I don't think.
Really?
That's the one that's still coming out because I think maybe I'm thinking of 103.
I think we have
Um,
102. I will
okay,
look though.
either 102 or 103. On the cover, it's Batman, and he's fighting both Clown Hunter and Ghostmaker. Is his name? Is that what you said? The new
I
guy,
believe it's Ghostmaker. Yes.
Ghostmaker. Yeah, so it's
No,
Clown
we
Hunter.
have 10. We have 102. 103 is the Clown Hunter cover.
Okay, which is cool. I'm
Yeah.
glad they're doing stuff. And on that level of Clown Hunter, I said this to Spencer out off air, but I think it would be so cool if they made Clown Hunter the new Robin, because we haven't had like a proper new Robin in years. Like when it was Damien, was that like 2005 ish, maybe
It's been
something like that?
Damien for a while.
Yeah, it's been like 15 years of Damien. And we had that brief spin-off at one point, I think like 3, 4 years ago, called like We Are Robin or whatever. I don't think it was I didn't read it, but I remember it not getting great reviews. That's why I didn't read it, because I love Robin, but if it's got bad reviews, got bad reviews. Clown Hunter would be a great choice. That'd be a really, really cool choice, especially like he's a sick character. First of all, I'm a big fan. I like he's different than the other Robins that we've had before. Damien is also a killer, but Damien is the grandson of Ra's al Ghul and like League of Assassins type killer, as opposed to Clown Hunter, who's just like he'd be a bit like Jason Todd, who I
He's a very
obviously
vengeful, like, I'm gonna kill all the clowns killer.
yeah, and I
I think
feel
it's
like
because they killed his parents or something.
they
Something
did.
along this. Okay, yeah.
They did. The Joker killed his parents.
Very Batman-y origin.
Very Batman origin. And the thing is, like, we had that scene in issue 100, which I loved, where Batman goes in and he talks to Clown Hunter without the mask on, and you have that, like, it's a great scene. And the fact that
Mm-hmm.
Clown Hunter's dialogue is all in lowercase is such a like
It's like a
Gen Z thing.
teenager, yeah.
Great detail. That's really great. But yeah, I think what they're gonna do, my prediction is, I haven't read 101, I haven't read 102. My prediction is that they're going to portray him as an anti-hero simply because he's a kid.
Yeah.
I think Batman's gonna obviously give him a much lighter run of it because he's a kid, and I feel like he'll become an anti-hero by the end. They'll make an alliance. I hope he'll become Robin. That would be really cool. If not, I hope he continues to be a character. I also hope Punchline continues to be a character. It seems like she will be, because I've seen a lot of buzz about her online, and a lot of what's being done. So
Just to
yeah.
give you a little tease of 101 and 102.
Uh-huh.
Clown Hunter's pretty central to the story, and Ghostmaker has some personal stuff with him as well, which is cool.
Oh,
So
sick!
yeah,
Okay,
he's not
cool.
going anywhere.
Perfect.
But
Love
I'm
that.
excited for you to read it because you're gonna think it's really cool. I thought it was great. I actually think, like, going forward, I was like, once Joker War ended, I was like, sick. Like, now we get like a fresh start. Because like you said, like, we knew what was going on with Joker War, but we didn't entirely get all the build up. We started right when the issues started saying like Joker War.
Mhm.
Um, and now I feel like I've really got my legs underneath me, and I know really where we are in this world, which is exciting. It's kind of how I felt when we finished the Mongol like War World arc from
Yeah.
Bendis. I think they call it the United Planets, but it's typically called War World.
Mhm.
And so like I was like, all right, let's go. Give me some Superman stuff, and that's why I like really loved the last Superman issue, the last two, and I
Mhm.
really am excited for where Batman's headed. So yes, Batman 100 is a lot of fun. We'll be back next week with 101 and 102 if you can read them.
I promise I'll make the pledge right now. Scout's honor. I will catch up on Batman by next week because I really enjoy Batman. I want to
Yes.
catch up on it. I
And
just keep forgetting.
we'll rave about Clown Hunter and Ghostmaker and all that jazz. But a series that we've both managed to stay on top of is Tom King's Strange Adventures, Adam Strange. Strange Adventures number 6 came out, and I'm going to say it off the bat, this is my favorite issue so far.
It's great.
I thought
It's
this was
really, really
terrific.
great.
I love Mr. Miracle in it, or not Mr. Miracle, Mr. Terrific. Um, Mr. Terrific talking with Mrs. Strange. It made me care about Mrs. Strange as a character because so far, like, we both liked it, but it's been so ambiguous that it's almost kind of like week to week. I feel like I need to reread the previous issues to really know what's going on.
Mhm.
This one finally started to let us in on some of the mystery, on some of what actually was going on, and I love how they jump in time. It reminds me a lot of, I'm sure everyone listening hates when I do this, but it reminds me a lot of Man of Steel with the time jumps. And I think that's always a cool linear device
Mhm.
where something happens in the present with Adam Strange and it takes him back to the past. Something happens
Yeah.
with Clark in the present, it takes him back to the past. Like, I like that. I think it gives you, could you that way you get the ongoing story and the backstory at the same
And it's
time.
it's
It's
so
not just
cool in it.
exposition story. It's like you
Yeah.
get like it just
The
makes it more
the art
exciting.
style shift also really adds to that
Oh,
too.
the art
Yeah,
style in Adam and Strange Adventures is terrific. I love that very humanoid. The guy was definitely inspired by Alex Ross, I think. Very
yeah.
like realistic
And then
looking,
yeah,
kind
and
of pastelly too.
the flashbacks are I'm totally losing his name, but there was that big DC comic artist who passed away a couple years ago,
Mm.
and he's much more cartoony style because the flashbacks are all cartoony looking, like a Sunday morning adventure cartoon, and then the present day is like gritty reality. So it really
Hmm.
really works.
Yeah, but I thought this issue was great, and I really like this Mister Terrific. I'd be interested if Tom King could do a Mister Terrific spinoff because
Yeah.
I've never given a shit, like, pardon my French, given a shit about that character at all. Like, I've seen him in Justice League stuff and crossovers. So I'm like, oh, that's cool. He's
Hmm.
kind of silly. He's got a big T on his chest. But in this one, I'm like, oh no, he's cool. He's like a dude who's like almost like burdened with this knowledge and this
He's got
quest
a
for.
T on his face.
I know, like the least subtle, most comic book thing ever. But I
Yeah,
really think that I've gotten a really good sense of him from this. I'm like, oh, he's cool. He's like with that. I love the scenes where he's like laying in bed at night and the robot's like, "What's the capital of this country?" And he's like, "This." And he's like, "Leave me alone." Like he's burdened with how smart he is and how like the standard he has to uphold. So it's
yeah.
cool. I think that's been my big takeaway is how much I like that character in this. But I've enjoyed this so far. Like you and I have said, like once it concludes, we'll be able to really give thoughts on it because it's just been so ambiguous. But like I said, my favorite issue so far because it's given us a little bit of what's actually going on.
This is good enough that when it's done with its run, even though I have all the individual issues, I'll probably buy a volume
Just to be able to have it all
just to
to
have it all in
read.
one place.
Like I know
It's
we could
really good.
physically line up all the issues, but it's easier when it's all in one book.
No,
And like
yeah,
I don't mind giving my more of my money to comic books. Like it's such a struggling industry right now.
yeah.
Specifically, because we talked with our comic store that AT&T is kind of not really knowing what to do with the physical production of comic books
Mhm,
right now because they
mhm.
just purchased Warner Brothers and Warner Brothers owns DC. So if you're a fan of DC Comics, I would say like buy.
Yeah,
Keep purchasing. Make AT&T convinced that physical comics is still a thing. Because
yeah,
that would really really suck if they all went digital or whatever just to cut costs. So far, AT&T has been batting 1,000 in my book. They've greenlit the Snyder Cut. They've been all up in HBO Max, greenlighting different DC projects. So I have faith in them. But if you like physical comics, you specifically like DC Comics, I would say don't hesitate right now. Support your DC titles. All
absolutely.
right, we'll jump over to our Marvel issue that we both read this week.
Wait, let me say something on
Oh,
Strange
you have something to
Adventures
say?
really fast. I just wanted to say on that, this like it's number six specifically. Super super great dialogue. I think very rarely in my life have I read or have I read something definitely, but have I like seen something that engages me that much through just dialogue. Like the visual is just them walking in the snow and they change locations a few times, but the conversations they're having are so real.
Mhm.
And the character Mrs. Strange was not like I don't think you were supposed to be, but I was not a fan of her. I didn't trust her even a little
I
bit
don't think you're
before
supposed
this
to. I
issue.
think you're supposed to be skeptical of her and Adam. That's kind of like the
Yeah,
idea of the
but
story.
like Tom King is such a freaking good writer.
Mhm.
Like, are you kidding me? The fact that he's able to turn it around in one issue that I totally hated her. Like, not hated her, but I was like, she's up to some shit. She's manipulating Adam, like that kind of thing, right? And then in
Right.
one issue, he's able to make, I don't know what her intentions are, right? But she's so likable. The way they're talking about trauma. It seems like such a real conversation, despite the fact that they're both superheroes in this really strange situation. Um, it just comes across as like fantastic execution in
Yeah.
writing and just there's no shortcuts taken. It's kind of really like it's good work. It's just good work, basically. No
Yep.
notes.
Yeah. It's going to be exciting to see where it really goes with the conclusion. That's something I'm looking forward to. Um, but over to the Marvel train, the one Marvel issue we also read Daredevil. We'll talk about Daredevil after this. We both read the Spider-Man Daredevil
Mm,
issue, but this is something that I've been excited for months because I if you guys are familiar with who John Schnepp is, he hosted Collider Heroes. He directed a lot. He created Metalocalypse, which is a really funny Adult Swim show. He directed a bunch of different stuff, but a really famous documentary about the Tim Burton Superman Lives film that fell apart called The Death of Superman Lives. What happened? It's really interesting. Nick Cage was Superman. It was going to be crazy, and he does a great job deep diving into that. But John Schnepp was a very famous like content creator in the nerd community who tragically died many years ago, but was very influential in my youth. And I have this I can't show it because of the mic stand, but I have a tattoo because of him. Anyways, he always talked about like the Marvel monsters and these old runs of these crazy Marvel characters. So we were flipping through, I think it was probably Deadpool, and I saw an ad that they were relaunching Werewolf by Night, which hadn't been written in years, like 20 plus years. And I was like, oh, I'm reading that for sure. And then little by little, I got more information that it was co-written by the guy from Black Eyed Peas Taboo, who has Native American ancestry. And they're fully like retelling it pretty much like Jacob from Twilight if it wasn't terrible. And I love the Twilight movies, but for all the wrong reasons. But it's like this Native American lineage, and some people have the gene to become the werewolf. And so Werewolf by Night #1 came out in October, and we haven't talked about it yet because we both just had to catch up and whatnot. I thought this was terrific. I loved it. It was so cool. I mean, I'm like I said at the top of the show, I'm a horror movie nut. So just getting some monstery characters was really cool. And I just remember I was like really excited. Like I had talked about it for months, how excited I was to read this. And I flipped open to it. In the first couple of pages, I was like, okay, yeah, there's like a weird military raid going on, or these are like criminals or whatever. And then like the splash page, and it's literally just this monster werewolf. And I was like, oh, this is gonna be sick. This is my favorite Marvel title we're reading right now. This first issue, like I fell in love with. I loved it so much. There's not too much story. It seems like that his dad like disappeared, and there's like a mysterious guy who looks like he's of Native American ancestry working for like this weird government agency who I suspect is probably his dad. I think that's what's implied.
Oh, was
That's
it?
at least how I read it. I could be
Okay.
wrong, but I implied
Okay.
that he's also a werewolf and they're probably going to fight at the end of this run.
hmm
Um,
that I could see coming.
yeah, I really loved the ending because, like, it's a first issue. It's kind of just world building and giving you some cool werewolf fight scenes that are awesome. But I really loved the like epilogue written by Taboo, who's the guy from Black Eyed Peas, and the other writers with him. And he's talking about how like he was so excited to really bring a Native American hero to life. And Marvel, like Marvel Studios specifically, like if you're gonna do a Werewolf by Night movie, like, and this run ends up being great, which I love this first issue. This is the way to do it. Like diversity and everything. Like this would be the
Mhm.
way to do it. This is such a great reimagining of that character. And like I said, it's basically Jacob from Twilight, but way more cool
Yeah.
and not silly, and like kind of takes itself fairly serious. Like it's fun, and they're definitely like he's a teenager, but I think his name is Jack. I could be wrong. I can't believe I don't remember his name. I read it weeks ago, but
Yeah.
I
I don't
love,
either.
love, love this, and I'm super stoked for the second issue.
Yeah. I really liked it too. I think it's cool. It's like horror. It's Area 51 meets werewolf horror
Yeah,
element, sort
the
of.
middle of the desert and our Native American reservation. Excuse me.
Yeah, and like the Marvel universe in terms of superheroes, you have your Avengers class, you have your mythology heroes, right? Like you have Thor, you have Hercules, you have all these people from stuff. Um, Not much horror kind of base powers. That's a cool concept. They don't really explore that often.
Yeah,
That's what really stuck out to me about it. I also really, really liked the guy that you think is going to be his dad. I thought that bit in the car was really cool. I thought the
yeah.
bit like the two of them were driving, and it was kind of there was a little bit of a vibe of like a cab to it, where the Native American guy was like, "I don't trust these people, but I'm working with
Hmm.
them." Um, cool. Like I'm really down, and also like on the thing of indigenous voices and stuff. We have it pulled. I think it's coming out this week actually. But Marvel are making a lot more efforts with that. What's releasing this week? I think it's called like Marvel Voices Indigenous People #1, and it's like it's an anthology of a bunch of short stories about the Native American superheroes in the Marvel universe, written
Hmm.
by Native American writers and artists.
That's awesome.
Um,
That's really
so yeah,
awesome.
it's really cool. We're getting representation, and I want to support that definitely.
Yeah. But if you have not heard about this run or you saw it, was like that could be interesting. High recommend. My favorite Marvel title we're currently reading. I would definitely check that out for sure. But let's hop over to the Daredevil issue this week, which is him and Spider-Man. Matt Murdock is still being charged for the murder of someone. We started with the annual, so we're a little bit lost, but we know enough to piece it together and figure out where the story's going from here.
Mhm.
Um, I really liked the ending of this,
Yeah, me too.
where Peter was like, "We haven't like talked in a while." Like, it was just very funny. It was like that
Mhm.
awkward like I'm gonna help you because we're both Avengers, but also like we're not really friends, are we? And then they
Yeah.
hugged, and it was very like paternal. With a spoiler alert, but it was kind of adorable. Like it was really well written. Peter, I really liked Peter in it a lot.
You want me to tell you something?
Yeah.
The reason for that is because Chip Starsky wrote Spider-Man a lot. The guy who writes
Ah,
it, he's written
I'd be interested
Daredevil.
to read that.
Yeah, he's written Daredevil for a while now. He wrote this. He wrote this series. Or first of all, he wrote Spider-Man in Howard the Duck because Spider-Man shows up in Howard the Duck.
I know he wrote Howard the Duck, which
Yeah,
is
and
awesome.
then through that, which is a very good series that I have not read, but it's got so much acclaim behind it. From his series being so good with that, they gave him his own Spider-Man title, and it's its own thing. It's like a mini series.
Hmm.
It's not an ongoing. So I would absolutely get a copy of that, and you can read it for
Heck
sure.
yeah, man.
But yeah, Chip Zdarsky's incredible writer, and like you
Hmm.
said, we're not totally caught up. I'm mainly excited to get to the next arc, so I can be in on what's happening and catch up.
Yeah.
But I also really, at the end of it, I like the Spider-Man stuff because, of course, I'm gonna like the Spider-Man stuff. It's great. Um, but at the very end of the episode, they kind of bring back that thing from the annual with Mike Murdock, his brother.
Yeah, where he walks in and like he's totally impersonating him. I was like, oh, there it is. I was waiting
Yeah,
for them to bring
yeah.
it back because they didn't in the previous issue, and that was a great cliffhanger.
It's a really cool way to bring it back, and
I was like,
I'm excited.
oh,
I'm
like they're
excited. Yeah, and kind of like what we were saying about Tinian's Batman run,
mm,
about how like Joker Wars has now set up Punchline and Clown Hunter and Ghostmaker. This
mhm,
arc of Daredevil is now setting up Mike Murdock as being. I feel like he's going to be some threat in the future, considering that
yeah,
the entire annual was about him. I feel like he's going to be pretty central to the plot.
he's gonna be a big event, I think.
Yeah, and that's a
Um,
cool idea. I
yeah,
don't like. I want to. I might want to pick up some back issues about his origin, about like the whole cloning thing.
it very
Um,
much reminded me of like Ben Riley and like the Spider-Man like clone saga,
yeah,
and all
yeah.
that. So I'm
Except for
interested if they end up bringing it
yeah,
around.
I have a collected edition of the Clone Saga. I've
Hmm.
read the Clone Saga. This is far better.
Okay,
Yeah.
I never read it. I just know what it is.
No, I love Ben Riley.
Yeah.
I won't move my computer, but I have a Ben Riley poster up on my wall. I really like
Mm,
Ben Riley. But yeah, no, those comics are famously like not the best.
yeah.
But Chip
Cool
Star's
story, but
really, really good.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I thought Daredevil was cool. I'm excited to see where this goes. Obviously, great cliffhanger. I love the splash page of Kingpin just killing that dude, just
Mhm.
like smashing his face, and I was like, yep, that's classic Kingpin, just being huge. Um, that was cool. It was violent as hell for a main title. I was very surprised.
Yeah. That's Daredevil's whole shtick, though.
Yeah, he's very like the gritty, the dirty, kind of
I
grimy
honestly,
Avenger.
even just from us talking about this right now, I think I'm gonna go to the store and get some Daredevil Chip Starsky. I might start with Volume One and catch up, because he's been doing it for a while. And
Hmm.
I read for one of my other classes, or for one of my comic class I took like 2 years ago. We were actually assigned one of his issues from this Daredevil run.
Oh, really?
It's like an entirely dialogue based one, and it's about a reporter friend of his, Ben, who's in the first season of the TV show. And it's kind of his deliberation in his head, his moral questioning about whether or not, because he knows Daredevil's identity, whether or not he should tell anyone that, and what's
Yeah.
the real side of justice, even though he doesn't entirely agree with the way that Daredevil goes about things.
Hmm.
He agrees with the results. So it's cool because Chip Zdarsky started as a comedy writer, but he's also really good at drama. He's just a really talented dude.
He is.
Um,
That he is.
yeah, I might read back on that. That's how much I like this issue. That's how much I like this Daredevil run.
Yeah, it was sweet.
I wanna read more.
Yeah. Um, all right, we will wrap up the show with
Wait, really fast. Well, wait. Are you saying the closing
I was
statement?
segueing into Skulldigger and Skeleton Boy.
Oh okay, my bad. Do that, and then I got something after that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, well, our final issue we'll talk about, maybe, barring what you have to say, is Skulldigger and Skeleton Boy #5, the second to last issue of this mini series from Jeff Lemire and Dark Horse. We don't know anything else about the Black Hammer universe, but we're both enticed to read it because we like this a lot. Um, you talked about this last week or last episode, and you said this was kind of disappointing. And I when I finished it a couple days ago, I like walked into your room and I was like, I couldn't disagree more. I thought this was great. It
Yeah.
really was the first time we really understood. She's not Montoya from DC, but like she might as well be.
Mhm.
She's basically the same character.
Yeah.
So we got a feel of her, and I really liked the scene. It was just a very character piece issue with her and Skeleton Boy sitting in the car and kind of her getting through to him, and like he's breaking down because he's joined Skulldigger and thinks Skulldigger's the answer. But I think the point of this comic is he's not. He's like a bad Batman.
Yeah.
And this kid is like drawn to him because he just has so many like unresolved feelings about everything. And seeing him kind of break down and realize like what he's become was really cool, especially for like a child. Like it was just a really that kind of powerful scene and very interesting. And then of course the cliffhanger, spoiler alert, of Grim Jim showing up and saying like the boy is like rightfully mine, and that's obviously what's going to come down to Skulldigger saving. I think Skulldigger is going to kill Grim Jim, die in the process. That's my prediction for the ending. And Skeleton Boy will live on. It'll be a cliffhanger where he puts on the mask and he's like, I have to keep this city safe or something silly like that, and that's how we're going to end. But I really like this issue quite a bit. I don't know. You obviously only read it the one time,
Mm.
but you still didn't have great opinions on it.
Well, you're selling me a bit on it because I did like those scenes. I did
Mhm.
like the dialogue and the conversation between basically Montoya and Skeleton Boy.
Make that a
But
quote. Basically, Montoya.
yeah, but my I guess my one complaint with it, I said this last week, and now that you've read it, you can address it, right? The cover has the Skulldigger bike on it, right? And
Yeah,
the problem I had was that we had this crazy twist at the end of the last issue where Skulldigger is shot in the chest, Grim Jim is shot in the head, and she flees with Skeleton Boy, right? And then in this issue, we have them in the car, and then like, oh, Skulldigger's fine. Oh, Grim
yeah. I did
Jim's
think
fine.
that was stupid.
And
I
I
was
was
like,
kind
that
of like,
was
what?
kind of a
Yeah,
very
I was.
unresolved
I was like,
thing.
what was the point of last week? If they're just alive again this week, it's
That's
not that
true.
it's not that it was unpredictable, but I kind of just wanted there to be a little bit more of a I'm struggling to think of a word, but like more. I wanted what happened last time around to carry on more. Like at
Yeah,
least have Skulldigger be like injured, or Grim Jim be injured or something. Like they could have shot his arm off or something. Grim Jim could have been one armed. That would have been cool or something like that. That was just an idea I came up with in my head just now. But so there's that, and there's also on the cover of it, it's got the bike, right? Which is sick. It's like cool. We're gonna get some cool shit with the bike this issue, and there's gonna be like some fucking bike scenes happening. It's gonna be great, but it's just a mode of transportation.
yeah.
It
It's like
basically
barely
they
in
have
it.
they have everyone in the butcher shop, and then they leave in the car, and then they have everyone by the car.
Hmm.
It's just everybody shifting from one location to the other location. That's what it felt. I mean, there was cool dialogue, there was cool thoughts, but my problem was in just the logistical like placing, and like it just seemed like a little bit of filler to me.
Yeah.
I'm excited for 6. I'm still very excited for 6, but the comparison, as soon as I read it, the first thing I thought to myself was I was like, this is like the Half Blood Prince, you
Mm.
know, where it's like,
Coincidentally, number oh no, Apple Prince is 6. I was gonna say that'd be crazy, but
yeah.
this was 5.
um, but yeah, like I had an argument with a friend of mine earlier this week about the Half Blood Prince because she really likes it, and I'm like, meh. But
It kind of sucks.
yeah,
It's necessary, but
it's Harry Potter. It's necessary. It's got cool scenes in it, but overall, it's more kind of just the transition piece to the final chapter, right? And as great as some elements of the Skulldigger issue were, that was still something that kind of read across to me. It was just a way of transporting the characters from one location to the other location in a way that was pretty cool, but I still couldn't help but see through it. You
yeah,
know? Yeah.
totally, totally.
I still love the series though, and I'm still very much want to. I just saw an ad on my Twitter a second ago for the Black Hammer collected edition, so I probably will buy
I
that
was gonna
because
say that'll probably be in one of our
there's the
merch
library
runs.
edition. It's a pretty big chunky boy. Some week, probably not in a little while because I probably don't have enough money right now.
Mm,
But when I do have the money to do so, I'll probably buy that because I
there you
do
go.
like Jeff Lemire a lot. I think he does a great job.
All right, there you have it. I'm a big fan of it. You thought it was okay, a little fillery, but both excited for the conclusion to Skulldigger and Skeleton Boy. Now, what did you have to say to
Um,
segue us out?
just a thing we haven't really done before, and I'm only kind of saying this because I have one in mind.
Mm,
But like upcoming titles we're excited about, like new number ones that are coming out soon, like a kind of preview type thing. We
okay.
haven't really done that a whole lot. So the one that comes to mind for me is Red Hood, the new
Mm,
the new start to Red Hood that's coming. Like it's a number. I think it's issue 51. I believe that Scott Lobdell has been writing Red Hood since 2010 essentially. Yeah, basically, like he basically has not quit. Like he has consistently written Red Hood since 2010. I was doing that math in my head, but that's 100% correct. It's a long ass time. He is a very controversial writer. I have it here somewhere. I love his first go at it, right? His first volume is really good, but also I've read volume probably like 5 or 6 times. In since I bought it like 10 years ago. But I think that I've only started to realize now the thing I really like about it is the art and the design, and not as much Scott Lobdell's actual writing.
Sure.
Because I noticed that later on when the art got worse, I was all of a sudden like far less interested in the title. Because it changed artists a lot, to be fair. But yeah, so now finally, even though Scott Lobdell's been getting hate for years, and I liked Red Hood Outlaw as well, I'm gonna say that too. But they're changing. They're changing writers. It seems like they're going in a whole different direction. Red Hood is a white character, but it seems like they're going more for diversity. His new, on the cover of the new title, his new, I guess, lead co-star. His new co-star is a black woman. Very cool. It's got a all black creative team, from what I understand, from what I've read online. Again, more like diversity, inclusion kind of stuff. And I think that's cool because Red Hood is a character who kills criminals, right? But the reason the criminals are criminals is because of systemic issues. And so he's a character that might not age that well. And so I like that they're getting ahead of that now and kind of expanding that ideal. And I want a Red Hood title that goes more into the philosophy and the basically Montoya and Skeleton Boy chatting in the car, right? I want that conversation. I want to go to a deeper level than just the kind of pulpy action that Scott Lobdell was doing. And it seems like it's going that way, fingers crossed. And also, the Red Hood Outlaw suit is still going to be worn, so that's obviously very exciting because I love that suit.
Yeah.
So that's my one. I'm putting you on the spot here, so if you don't have anything, that's chill. But
no, I do. I mean, we talked about it earlier on the show, but Punchline, I'm excited for that one shot that's coming out. I think like Wednesday we can get it. Which is 2 days from now. We're recording on a Monday. I'm also really excited for this big event, this big Justice League event that they've been teasing for months called Endless Winter. I'm excited to see what that is, and I'm gonna go on our online list and just kind of reserve all the separate issues because there's like a Flash, a Superman, a Black Adam. That are all kind of tying
Black
into
Adam?
there's a Black Adam
Interesting.
Endless Winter, and then there's like 3 main Justice League ones.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to pick that up. I'm also really excited for the Tales of the Dark Multiverse, the Wonder Woman War of the Gods. I'm excited just for a weird Wonder Woman story. That's cool. And then you can't see it, but there's a poster on my wall for a black and label thing that we missed called Wonder Woman Dead Earth, which is basically Wonder Woman wakes up in like an apocalypse. And like there's supposed to be like dinosaurs. She looks like a caveman. So I'm really excited for that collected edition that comes out in December. But those issues have already gone. So if you read that, good on you. We missed it by a hair.
Yeah.
So Punchline, I'm excited for Endless Winter to read all those different issues. And maybe if they're good, we jump into like a series like The Flash or something that is good because of it. And then I'm excited for that collected edition of Wonder Woman Dead Earth. But yes, those are mine. You said yours. With that, we are out of time and out of topics. Thank you so much for listening to the new adventures of Cayman and Spence. If you liked the show, you can check us out at anchor.fm/the new adventures of Cayman and Spence, and also follow us on Instagram at DPN Comics. Comics spelled like COMICS, with DPN preceding it. You can tell a friend about our show and help us grow our small community of comic fanatics through that Instagram page, through our Anchor, through whatever you want to do. 5 stars, 2 thumbs up, Eisner Award, whatever you feel is necessary to help us grow.
Eisner Award.
Yeah. Again, thank you for listening, and we'll see you next week. Writing and producing for this episode of The New Adventures of Cayman and Spence was done by myself, Spencer Bennett, and my co-host, Kieran Collins. Editing was done by Spencer Bennett. Our logo was created by Spencer Bennett. My music was composed by Brandon LaBelle. The show is a proud participant in the Deconstructed Podcast Network with the newly relaunched Maybe You Should Care political discussion, which is, of course, very active right now because of the election this week. The Disney Deconstructed Podcast, which is still on hiatus because Disney did a lot of sad things, and we're just waiting till that clears up to do our 50th episode and celebrate Disney once again. Unofficial Experts with Preston Moore season 2 is starting soon, and that wraps. And of course, Cayman and Spence, which you're listening to right now. But link is in the description for the podcast network. Thank you again for listening, and we'll see you next week.